Hello, Aaron.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Look at
I'm
your
really
little
good.
behind there.
I'm in my room with the green screen, but I realized that it's all like we can't join by computer, right? It's all phone based.
All through phone.
Okay, well, I'm going to go sit in the sun.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm outside?
Totally. Let me grab my stuff and get out of here.
Yeah,
My
you know
goodness, I
what?
need
You
to.
could sit wherever you wanted.
Uh, I should have worn a Hawaiian shirt, and I should be sitting in the sun. So, how are you doing, Aaron?
Oh, I'm just lovely. I'm actually chilling at my parents'. I've been quarantining here for a while, which has kind of been nice and taking it slow. Oh, we've lost connection here. Oh,
You hear me again?
yep, I can hear you. Oh, the
How
connection.
how you doing?
I'm good. Very
Good.
good. Enjoying the weather. Oh, how is
Yeah,
it over in Vancouver?
it's beautiful. Well, actually, it's pretty beautiful. It's cloudy but sunny, and in Vancouver, that's pretty good.
That is pretty. And it looks like you have a lovely setup outside.
I do. This is my backyard. It is there's the
Oh,
stuff for the
look at that
kids.
chair! That like circular chair.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Where's that? Over there. I know. I should be sitting
You
in
should
that actually.
chair.
Uh, that's our thinking reading chair.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. I see.
yeah. And what about you? You're in Ontario, right? You're in Toronto?
I am in currently in Chatham, Ontario. I've been quarantining for a while now. Uh,
Quarantining sounds like a good drink you should be ordering.
right?
I'll take that quarantini.
Yeah.
Uh,
I should have one right now.
totally. I think every drink we have is a quarantini.
True that. But yeah, no, it's been really good. Nice to have the space. I've I'm looking forward to getting back to Toronto, and I know that they've opened up a bunch of stuff now, so
Hmm.
it's hopefully all positive.
Yeah, we're in BC. We're opening phase three, I think, this weekend or something. So I don't even know what that means.
I don't,
I know
all I
we
do is hair salons and nail salons and patios.
So it's so funny. I've been hosting emceeing virtual emceeing for the Site Canada webinars and the what do you call it, the cocktails. So I've been laughing and laughing because people have been going, Roger, what's going on with your hair? Like your hair still looks good. And I go, yes, I've been cutting my own hair for 20 years, waiting for the chance to go, oh, look it, I don't have to worry about having my own haircut because I do it myself. Although like now it
That's
doesn't, well,
so
right now it
good.
doesn't look so great, but it's pretty good normally. Yeah,
Yeah.
I lean over upside down and I do some funny hair cutting stuff.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. You should like get a YouTube channel up to help other men.
Just what I need. Another YouTube channel.
You
Uh,
Well, speaking of YouTube channels, why don't we start off with who you are
mhm.
and um, your kind of pursuit of happiness and how you got wrapped into this, the joy of play. And I guess maybe I will just reiterate that I met the lovely Roger. Um, I was just starting out as a conference director.
Mm.
Um, he was one of those speakers that just really, and his business name is Engagement Limited, which is very he
Unlimited.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was so amazing to see him see you get
Hmm.
up on stage and really engage. I've never seen a speaker do that before, and it being the host of the event and seeing the joy that you brought and the experiences that happened during the events that we put on, it was
Hmm.
really inspiring. And I will say it that it inspired me to do my own events and do my own community building. Yeah, no, so kudos to you.
Well,
Good for you.
thank you. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
You know, it's really interesting. I'm gonna put this somewhere where I don't have to hold it in a weird way. But this is gonna. Oh, you can see that I'm wearing shorts. Okay, wait, that doesn't work either. Let me get this there. Okay,
Okay.
is
Live.
that is that okay? That yeah, let's do that. So okay, so this is a long story. I'm an actor, I'm a teacher. I love to get on stage and talk about things. So when you say, hey, tell me about, your life, I'm like, okay, well, I got, how much time do we have? Because I've got 7 hours of talking. But so let me like cut it all way down. So my background is this. I started as a teacher. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was like, in university, trying a bunch of different things. And I finally, everyone said you should be a teacher. And I was always like, no way, thank you, but no thanks. And then I took a teaching 1 year degree when I finished my history degree, and I fell in love with it. And I literally came home. I remember in particular, I came home and I had bought a briefcase type thing because I was a teacher and not a student. And I dropped my briefcase the day I came home from my first practicum. And as the briefcase hit the ground, I realized, like, it was like an epiphany. I found what I could do for the rest of my life and be happy. Like, I could be a teacher for the rest of my life and be happy. So I did that, and I went and got a master's. I got a degree, and then I got a master's. And while I was getting my master's, I was like, well, what do I want to teach besides socials, which is my passion? And I was like, I want to teach acting. I used to do acting in high school. So I went into an acting class, and that teacher talked me into going into the acting program. And so then I graduated a couple years later with an acting degree and a master's. And I was like, no one's in any hurry to give me a job as an actor. And I didn't want to go straight into like the teaching world. I wanted to merge them. So I made a company. And, I didn't know how hard that was. Thank goodness, how hard, because I wouldn't have done it otherwise. But, this is like 27 years later. And basically the company I created was something that allowed me to do the type of acting, the type of engagement that I really wanted. Because as an actor, I really hated, not hate, that's too strong a word. I found it very challenging to be on a stage, spending all this rehearsal time working, and the moment that people walk in the door that you're actually there for, you pretend they don't exist. And that really bothered me. And so I created a type of acting company that busted through barriers. And so instead of it being we're on stage and you're over there, my type of acting was all about engagement, was all about getting in with people and getting them involved in what's going on. And you didn't call things engagement back then. Like, there wasn't that word to be used. It was just you got engaged to get married. And so I had this company for like 20 years until finally I renamed it Engagement Unlimited. And what I did at that point is I took the acting and the team building that we were doing, and I grabbed education. I was like, why am I not getting on stage and talking about things I want? And I pulled it all together, and I became a keynote speaker. And what you saw, when you saw me, that was probably about my second year of being a keynote speaker. And when I came into the industry, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, people stand on stage and talk for like an hour or 2 hours, and you look around the room. We all know that, like, if you do studies, 80 to 95% of what people hear in a sit down, normal meeting, normal conference, goes in one ear, crosses their brain, falls out the other ear, lands on the ground, never to be remembered again. So, like, I was like, what are we doing? Like, I'm going to stand and talk for an hour, and I know that 90% of it is never going to get anywhere. I was like, no, I got to change that. So I decided to create what I considered a really engaging talk. So what you saw was my third talk, or my second talk, called The Power of Play, or at least one of them that you saw. And in that, I don't just talk about how great play is and how central it is to our human existence. And when you take play away from humans, we turn into homicidal mass murderers. And when you take play away from rats, they end up dead. And that this shows us how important play is to our lives. And so while I was putting that together, and my first talk too, I was like, I have to incorporate engaging concepts. I have to get the audience, the participants, so deeply involved that they, when they walk out, they're like, I learned so much. I didn't learn 10%, and I didn't learn 30%. I learned like 80% of what he was talking about. So I did it in a way, for a very selfish way. Like, to be fair, I hate the idea of standing on stage and having people not engage. Like, it hurts my soul. It hurts my soul to be like, I'm doing this and half the room isn't interested. Like, I need to figure out how to keep them interested. Otherwise, I shouldn't be on that stage. And so I have spent my life thinking about how do you not only get other people to engage with you, but how do you get yourself to engage with the most important things in your life so that you can be the person that you want to be. So my first book, which I don't have here, is called The Me You Want to Be. And it's my journey from, I walk into rooms where I want to do magnificent things, like really magnificent things. I want to do an audition, for example. I walk into my kid's room and I want to have a real conversation about something that's important. Or I'm walking into my spouse's room or a situation where I want to have a conversation about how badly our relationship is going. And if it doesn't get better, things are looking bleak for us. Like, these are important moments. And I wanted myself to show up the best version of me in these moments. I wanted to be able to be the me I wanted to be in these moments. And the only way that I could do that was to create internal power. And so my first talk, Pressure Cooker Confidence, is really an examination of how do you go from I can't breathe in these really stressful situations to I'm regularly doing magnificent things. And that journey from I can't breathe to I'm doing magnificence is what my first talk is about. And my second talk is about how to take play and pull it into your life and make your life more powerful. And then my third talk is about engagement. And it's about how to create engagement. What do you do in your life to create the building blocks of engagement so that you become more engaged with the things that matter to you, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of those things are so essential to human connection, especially right now. What are some of the things that you've learned about humans and connection during your speaking experiences, and even just within the last couple of weeks or months with this whole?
So, like, there's a whole bunch of stuff I think that we could talk about in terms of pandemic. And my newest talk really looks at that. I start off by going, let's talk about pandemic problems. And I put pandemic in brackets because the pandemic has only exacerbated things in our life. It's only shown us where there's weakness, and it's shown us where there's strength. So I believe there's tons of stuff to talk about. I start by talking about that we're not in the same boat, that this builds empathy and gratitude, which are really important muscles to be working on all the time, but especially in a pandemic, right? Like, we're not in the same boat. Like, my boat is different than your boat, and our boat in Canada is different than the people who are in the States or in Brazil. Our boat is different than the people who live in New Zealand. And my boat is different than someone who has your boat is totally different from my boat. And then my second point is that we're not in, you're not in the same boat. Like, so you, Aaron, you might have got up today and you have a baby, right? You don't have a baby. Oh, I thought you had, sorry. Okay, so I have a baby. I have babies. So you're like, do I have a baby? Did no one tell me?
I'm single and no baby.
Okay, well, those do go together well. So let's say you got up today, and you had a really wonderful morning. Like, it was sunny, and you're like, this is great. And then you get a phone call, and it's a client going, I'm canceling. It's a pandemic, and we can't do what we were wanting to do. Click, and then you go, oh, I don't feel so good. And all of a sudden, you talk to your mom, and your mom goes, I'm worried about, my friend might have COVID, and I don't know, she's got a underlying condition. And all of a sudden your boat changes, and your boat might be a yacht. In the morning, it might be a yacht. It might be like, oh man, life is great. And after that call, and after talking to your mom, and after talking to a friend who's having some real problems, you realize that your boat has changed. And now you're in a canoe. You're in a canoe in a hurricane. So these are really important ideas because, first of all, it builds up gratitude that, when you're in a yacht or when you're on a cruise ship or when you're on a sailboat or when you feel in control, these are moments to grab onto and be grateful. And moments when you're feeling like you're on a log and you have no, hello, hi,
Oh,
that's Mochi. Come back here. And so your boat changes like over the course of a day, and so what happens is that whatever you might have experienced in a like a week, like this is your normal week. I've got a high, I've got a low, I've got all of that is crammed together, and it's extended so that your day becomes the same emotional journey that you might have had in a month. So your day after day, you're going, my emotions are getting worn out. Like I'm getting worn out, right? So these are real downsides to the pandemic and what we're going through. And they're only, I think, showing us what really is happening in our life anyway, where the engagement is and where the disengagement is, where the challenges are. But the good side, there's a ton of silver linings that we're also getting out of this. Like one of the longest studies that was ever conducted on humans that we know about is called the Harvard Grant Study, and they studied Harvard men, because there were only men at that time, from like 1930 or something to 75 years later, so like 2005 or something. And so when the social scientist was asked, "Hey, Dr. Crystal, who joined, nice to see you."
yeah.
So when the scientist was asked, the social scientist, they said, "What did you learn? 75 years that you've studied people." And what they wanted to study was what makes people's lives happy and healthy. So basically, they wanted to know what makes a person's life both worth living and how long that they live. And I didn't say that properly, but it's that idea: how long you live and how well you live is what they were really looking at. And what they found when asked, they said, "What did you?" He said, "I can answer in one word. What keeps you happy and healthy in life is love." From a scientist. And the person said, "What do you mean?" Like they kept saying, "What does that mean?" And what they came around to saying is, our social networks, our networks of love, like the people that surround us, are the things that keep us happy and healthy in life. So if you want to live longer and you want that life to be more meaningful, more for you, like whatever that means for you, then you need to focus your energies on the people, the community around you. Now, this is, I think, massively interesting and massively overlooked, because when you look around at what people put on their list of, what's important in life, like career and money, are way up at the top, prestige, way up at the top of the list. But what should be at the top of the list are things like community and loved ones and family and networks and friends and networks of support. Like this is where the power for humans lie, in our social engagements, which is why I think engagement is such an important thing to be focusing on.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of connection, I think it's funny because I'll have days where I don't actually I don't connect with anyone. And
Yeah.
I find myself like, oh, like in this like sort of depression in this cloud. I'm like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
and then Crystal, who's actually on this live here, I had a call with her this morning, and it was just so good to
Yeah.
connect
Mm-hmm.
and talk about our own vulnerabilities and able to share and feel this sense of connection.
Mm-hmm.
Completely changed my day in terms of like the boats that you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was starting off like hum ha, and now I'm like, yeah, let's do this day. Like let's get this going. And I think people take advantage of the fact of that community and friends and family are this very important part of life, if not the most important part of life,
Mm-hmm.
that where this pandemic, I feel, almost makes us look at life a little differently, that we're
Mm-hmm.
that were important are no longer as important as they, at least for me. I know there's other people that haven't necessarily taken a deeper dive into life and all of that, but I think for the most part, a lot of people have taken this pandemic and really started to, you know, question the things that they take value in, and the people in their life, and like how can I better connect with someone, or my family, my friends,
or sorry,
no.
or even how to get out of relationships. Like when I think about, there's this really funny meme that I'll show in the talk on Sunday, where it says, I love this because it's so funny and yet it hits a really dark subject. There's these two women in a kitchen, and this woman has just arrived, and she says, "Where's your husband?" And the one woman sitting down says, "He's in the garden." And she says, "Oh, I didn't see him." And the woman sitting down says, "You have to dig a little." Right? Like, you know, the pandemic went on enough that she killed her husband and buried him so that she could sit happily in her kitchen and drink tea. And when I laughed so much at that, but this is the reality for some people. For some people, the boat that they're in is surrounded by toxicity. The boat that they're in is surrounded by relationships that they have let themselves be in, that are not helping them. And so I believe life is constantly a battle between who is in it and who's out of it. Like as an entrepreneur, I fire my clients. I'm a big believer in firing clients, even if I can't afford to. I'm a big believer in saying your toxicity is not welcome here. You will give me money, but that money is not worth the price that you're going to take from my soul and from the people, my staff, and from the people that I represent. And so I believe as a boss, as a leader, it is my job to step up and go, this will cause me pain, financial, organizational pain, but it is important to get those people out of your life. Now, maybe, it's like some people, you sort of go, well, what about those people? Don't they deserve someone in their life? Yes, they do, but they deserve people in their life when they start acting like humans, right? Like, if you're acting like a sociopathic, narcissistic, asshole, to say it, on live, well, then you've got to do some digging in your own life before you can expect other people to start helping out. So anyway, I got this off you were talking about, you talking to Dr. Crystal, and Dr. Crystal, yes to community and yes to amen. So back to you, Erin. I sort of interrupted.
Well, no. I was just basically saying, like, this whole situation that we're in, we could look at this very negatively, or we could look at this as, this sucks, but what is this trying to tell us about ourselves and our connections with people and our,
and our world?
Yeah, I'm a very firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and, the universe is always trying to tell us something. And so I look at this as like, okay, what is this telling? Why am I feeling this way? Oh, well, maybe you talk to your friends, or, maybe you should look into this in your own feelings. And like, I think that it's very much a time to really reflect.
Yeah. So there's two things there. One, about talking to friends. I couldn't agree more. I believe that when I'm at my lowest, so when I have tons of strategies to get out of dark zones. I'm a performer. I'm an actor. I'm an artist. My normal life is like this. Most people's lives, I believe, live in a much more reasonable box. But my life, I have highs like you cannot believe. Like, I get cast in a show that I want to be in. It's like, I've never done heroin, but I imagine the people who do heroin are trying to feel what I feel. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they're trying to get to what I'm feeling because I get so high, but then I get really low as well. And I have all these strategies to pull myself out of those spots, fighting to be positive, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, the power of play. Play is one of the ones I use almost always to get out of those low parts. Yeah.
So Sorry, what in terms of play, like let's get into a little bit of that because I think that people have, well, for me, especially during this time, that I've put a lot of pressure on myself to be productive and to
Yeah,
always doing something and always like trying to be
yeah,
successful during this time. And as you said, you're an entrepreneur. Now I'm a very, very, very new entrepreneur.
yeah,
This it's been hard. It's been
yeah,
really hard. And
yeah.
I've been putting a lot of pressure to be successful. So what are some types of ways that we can incorporate play for adults
Mhm.
and, be able to kind of tap into that childlike
So
happiness?
yeah, yeah. So I think I have a different attitude than many people in this area. I often get asked by people, how do I have the energy that I have, and how do I have this positive energy, and how do I give off so much energy? And I think there's a ton of different reasons, but I think one of the core reasons is that play is central to my life, and what I what I would recommend, there's other people who are going to give much better answers in their own way. But what I believe is that you need to. So I create these things called Rogers rules. They're rules that allow me, in a short little burst of words, uh, create real power. So I don't think it's enough to be joyful. Uh, I think that's great. Like, I think it's grateful to have that attitude. I'm joyful as much as I can be. I think that it's our job as adults to seek out joy and to seek out play. And so what that means for me, let me tell you a story. My office is upstairs, not right there. It's on the other side of the house. And on the other side of the house, we have another yard, and we have a big trampoline out there. And so my window opens.
Hey, Chris. Oh no, our internet. You think? Oh, I think his internet went kapoop. Oh,
Hey, okay, I'm back. Someone joined and kicked me off. Whoever joined, why did you kick me off? Um,
oh
uh,
no, what? My cousin actually.
hey, cousin. No, I think I'm outside, so maybe the connection is wonky. You guys can see me now and hear me now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, perfectly.
Okay, so let me finish the story. So my window looks out on the trampoline. So I'm working, and all of a sudden I'll hear my kids. I've got three, so two young ones and a teenager. So I hardly see my teenager, but my two young ones will be out jumping on the trampoline. And so when I hear them, I go to an instant judgment. I have an instant moment where I go, I'm judging what I do. And I go, look at what I'm doing. Is this more worth it to continue to stay here? Or is it more valuable for me to go downstairs, jump on the trampoline for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then come back upstairs? In my YouTube channel, which I really recommend people to check out, it's called, just Google Roger Haskett pandemic, but it's
Oh,
called Talking to People. Okay, perfect. It's called Talking to People in a Pandemic. I have this one called Kiss Attack. And I talk about how when I need energy, I run down the stairs and I do a kiss attack to my family. And I run around and go, it's a drive-by kissing. And I grab them and I kiss them and I lift up their shirts and I kiss them so that my beard gets them all itchy and ticklish.
aw.
And they go crazy. And then my Cody, who's 8, turning 9, said just the other day, this is how contagious it is. He went, as I kiss attacked him, he went, I'm doing a drive-by kissing. And he started to kiss attack his mom. And so all of a sudden, we're all kiss attacking each other because it's so contagious. And I have very little energy and I'm sort of, sitting at my desk doing nothing, to now I'm running back upstairs with all this energy to put to the things that I want to work on. The hardest things in my life that I want to work on, I now have the energy to do it. So back to the trampoline, I seek out joy. Like when I see it around me, I go, that's more important than what I'm doing right now. Unless I'm in flow, unless I'm doing something that I go, I don't want to interrupt this. This is desperately important. I will constantly break my day up to put moments of joy and really moments of play. Um, and I do it especially when I'm broken. So when I'm sitting and I'm going, nothing's happening. Like I'm sitting at my desk and I'm supposed to be working, but I'm not working. Like, look at me. I'm not. Maybe someone walking by would be fooled, but I'm the owner. So like, I'm not fooling anyone. And I go, this is a waste. So if my kids are around, I go do a kiss attack or I go play. If they're not around, or if I don't want to bother them or whatever reason, I turn on music and I dance and I sing. And so often when I'm lowest, I'm doing things that I don't want to do. Like I don't want to dance and I don't want to sing and I don't want to jump on the trampoline and I don't want to do a kiss attack and I just want to sit here in my misery. I don't want to phone my friends. I don't want to connect with anyone. And if I don't fight back, if I don't fight to be positive in those moments, then those moments slip away. And a day becomes a day of ugliness, of disaster. And that leads to a night of ugliness and disaster. I have a video on my channel called What Do You Do When You Become a Stranger in Your Own Life? And so this is, to me, what you were just describing. Like you woke up today and you were like, I don't want to connect with anyone. Like my life doesn't feel like my life anymore. The people in my life, they don't feel like people in my life. I'm a stranger in my life. So what do you do when you're a stranger in your life? You fight. You fight. You fight to be positive. You fight to be joyful. You fight to play. You fight.
I really, really, really love that, because I don't think people think that they are allowed to or feel like
Yeah.
they give that time to even just 5 minutes, even to like parents like yourself, like that are, overworked and like are working at home and having to take care of kids. And it's just like, take that 5 minutes,
Mhm.
take that time to like really just like engage with your family.
So
And
let me tell you another story. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
no,
You finish, and then I'll talk.
um, yeah, I forget.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's totally
Uh,
fine. Like,
uh,
I think,
uh, yeah.
I think it's more so just people allowing, we have to allow ourselves the grace and the time.
Mm,
We have
mm.
to, we owe it to ourselves to give us this time of joy and give us this time of happiness. Because what the hell are we doing life for? Is it to just work for 12 million hours a
You
day?
know, I would argue that it's even more than that. I would say that you owe it to the people in your life.
True.
You owe it to yourself. Totally, 100%. But you also owe it to them. Like when I do a kiss attack to my family, everyone is in a better mood when I'm done. Everyone. When I jump on the trampoline with my kids, we all have fun. And I go upstairs and I'm in a better zone. They're in a better zone. I come back downstairs later in a better zone. Everyone benefits. Everyone benefits. So let me tell you this story. So I'm giving the Power of Play talk, which is the one that you heard first.
Yes.
And it changes. Uh, I'm so used to having people. This is the reason I do this job now, because I'm so addicted to having people come up afterwards and say, what you just said changed my life. I've had people with tears streaming down their eyes, waiting in line to come up to me and say, what you just said about play. For example, I had a woman say to me like a year ago, she went, I, I have, I, I've had a broken relationship to play my whole life. I didn't know that. And she's crying and she goes, I haven't been playing with my kids. I thought it wasn't my job to play with my kids. I thought it was my job to show them what work meant. You changed my life. And so I hope she went home and played with her kids. So the story I want to tell you is this. So I'm doing the Power Play, and I'm doing it for a group, and the meeting planner, like you, is standing at the back of the listening to it. And her name is Laura. She's awesome. I work with her many times. I love the company, their company, Rare Affairs. They're awesome. They're so forward thinking. They're so great. Anyway, so she's listening to the Power of Play. And afterwards, she's walking with me as I'm done. And she's walking and she says, you know, Roger, and no, she doesn't do it then. She comes up to me afterwards. This is like a month later. That's right. And she says, I want to talk to you. You know that Power Play, that talk I listened to a month ago. Well, it really hit home. I have two young kids. They're 6 and 8. They're boys, and I work. You know, so and my husband work. So it's really hard. In the morning, I tell a story about how this woman changed her life by changing her play in the morning, and she goes, I listened to that story about how this woman realized that if she had just played with her daughter for 5 minutes in the morning instead of arguing, everything would have changed. So I went home and I thought, I'm going to do that. So she set her alarm 5 minutes early, which is very hard for any parent, which is very hard for anyone who works, which is very hard for any human. I would say she set her alarm 5 minutes early and she got up 5 minutes early. And she took that 5 minutes and she said to her boys, hey, this is your time. We're going to play. What do you want to play? Mommy's getting down on the floor with you to play. What do you want to play? And they played for 5 minutes. That's it. After 5 minutes, she got up and did the rest of the day. She said, when it came time to the most painful part of a parent's day, usually, which is getting anyone out the door, like so getting them out the door to school, whatever, she said, all of the joy that they had created in that 5 minutes still existed, even though it had been created almost an hour earlier. And so when she said it's time to go, everyone was happy and they all got their bags and they all got their stuff and they did it. So she went, that was amazing. I'm going to set my clock to 10 minutes tomorrow. And so she set her clock to 10 minutes. And she said, in the last month, I have been getting up and spending 10 minutes of time with my kids, just playing what they want, what hopefully they all want, because that's the best way to play, but playing what they want, or playing, you know, with them. And she said, it has changed everything. Not only has it changed my mornings, and not only has it changed my relationship to my boys, she said, my relationship to my boys is so much more loving suddenly, so much more joyful. She said, it's changed what happens at night. She goes, like, the 5 to 10 minutes in the morning affects the whole day. And she said now she has a rule that whenever her boys say to her, let's play, she, instead of saying, I can't, which is what almost every parent says, I can't, I'm loading the dishwasher, I can't, I'm working, I can't, I'm taking care of you, she says instead, yes. And she plays for 2, 3, 4 minutes. That's it. That's it. Like a very short period of time. She goes, I'll play. Let's play. And she plays for a minute or 2, 3 minutes. And she goes, that's it. I got to go back to doing my work. And she said, it has changed her relationship to her family. Play. 5 minutes of play. My talk is called The Power of Play for a reason, because there is so much power in play that we as humans, mostly adults, turn away from. We literally turn away. We turn our back to it and we go, play is what I used to do. Now I do serious things.
I'm an adult now. I have an adult life. I don't do silly things.
Yeah. And I mean, play for adults then becomes like, I'm on a sports team or I watch sports and I'm like, that's great. That's good. That's awesome. That's play. But that's not only play. Play is imagining things. Play is when my daughter says, let's play cat. I'm the owner. You're the kitten. And I go, meow. That's play, right? Like play is everywhere. It's not just as adults think, you know, what you schedule on your day timer. I've got play scheduled at 6 because I'm going to go play softball. I've got play scheduled at 4 because I'm going to go play tennis. Like that is a like stab yourself in the back attitude towards play.
Yeah, I think it's really, like you're saying, it needs to be very authentic and really, you know, you're legit playing. It's not something you are, you know, oh, I got to go play softball, or oh my gosh, I got to go play badminton or whatever you're playing. But it's more that authentic, like you said, like it's taking that time to dance around your place, or you know, sing a silly song, or you know, go, I don't know, really funny YouTube video and just make yourself laugh. Like it's all of these things are very simple, It's just we as humans and as adults feel like that's childish behavior, and we can't bring ourselves to do that, I guess. And
Yeah.
that's just not, I don't
I
do that.
actually, I actually think it's not simple at all. I actually think play is very challenging. Like play is a structure. Like my company gets paid lots of money to create extremely successful, repeatable play situations. Like that's one of the things that we do. Um,
Yeah.
Play is actually a structural, usually it's a structure. I don't think that play is really the answer. After I talk about the power of play, at the very end of my talk, I usually go, okay, I sort of been, misleading you. I don't really think it's play that is the answer. I think it's playful. I think it's having an attitude of playfulness. I think if you go through life with an attitude of playful, then you are constantly looking for things that will make you smile. You're constantly looking for things that will make you happy. Like when I started to use the power of play in my life, I use it as an actor. I used it because I was super desperate. I was about to either quit acting because it was making me crazy, or like all the rejection, or I was going to go crazy. So I was either going to quit, or I'm an actor, I'm an artist. I feel that it's like a hip check to put an actor into crazy land. It's just a little like a little tap, and then you're like, whoa, I'm in crazy land, because we live close to the edge. And so when I was desperate to change my energy around auditioning, around who I was in these stressful things that for me were really important. And so when I said I'm going to use play because it's been the most powerful thing in my life, when I looked around, I went, the thing that I can rely on most was play. I started to have a playful attitude, because when you go to an audition, you can't, like, what are you going to play? Like, hey, I brought a game of checkers. Like, hey, people, like, I'm going to be all singing, everyone. Like play has to be an attitude. It has to be something that when you walk into the room and you see someone, your face lights up with, I'm going to go over and connect with that person. And I'm going to talk to that person in a joyful, playful manner. Like, when I walk up to the desk and instead of checking in and being at all stressful, I'm talking about the fact, like, oh, this pen isn't working. I now have a moment to be playful about pens not working. Instead of being like, ah, damn, this pen isn't working, I can be like, oh, so you really don't want me to sign in, do you? You're trying to cause me more problems with a non, like, whatever. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's a joke. It just matters that you're trying to be
Yes.
playful.
Yeah.
I think that's the secret.
Well, I was literally just going to ask you, what advice can you give people to, kind of navigate throughout their days if they're feeling very negative? How do they get out of that? Is
Yeah.
to be playful and to, look at is change your perspective, change, like, how can you make this more fun, or how can you make someone smile, or because I also think that that's a good thing to do as well, is that making someone else smile or
Yeah.
doing something
Yes. Yeah.
is is really something that's going to make you feel good as well. And all of these things, I guess, is what you're saying, can be used to, like, remembered throughout the day. So at night when you go to bed, these are things that you can be grateful about that you've done.
Yes.
And you,
And great. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And gratefuls are really important to do. We do gratefuls at our dining room table. And I love telling this story because when I started doing gratefuls, I listened to a guy talk. He has this amazing thing that and gratefuls were what it let. I was like, there's power in gratefuls. Um, uh, the, uh, I need to do that in my family. So we started to do gratefuls. And of course, like, my three kids were like, I said, okay, we're going to do gratefuls. Who wants to go first? And they're all like looking anywhere but at me, because they're like, I don't want to do that. Within a week, I was going, who wants gratefuls? And they were like shooting them. We started to do three gratefuls a couple years ago. And, it depends. Sometimes people don't want to do gratefuls. We don't do it every night. But the power in gratefuls is not being grateful. The power in gratefuls is looking for what you're grateful for. So the more you have to struggle, like fight, search for what you're grateful for, the more muscle you're building up. And that muscle is what you use to have power later in your life, like later in the day, later when you need it.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
asked me, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So you asked about advice. I would say it's not just enough to be playful. It's not just enough to be positive. Like this is, I would say this is one of the things I was put on this earth to argue for. I argue this on LinkedIn all the time. People will say, you know, you say fight to be positive. Why can't you just say think to be positive? Fight is so negative. And I go, you might think fight is negative. I don't think fight is negative. I think that we are put on this planet to fight.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know humans who aren't fighting for something that are like, if you're not fighting for something, what's going on in your life? Anyway, who cares about that? What matters is I believe that you have to fight for these things. I think you have to fight to create internal power. I think you have to fight to create engagement. Not all the time, but when you need it the most, when you're down a deep, dark hole and you're looking up at the light and going, how do I get back to reality? How do I get out of this, like this black hole that I've created in my life? You fight. That's when you fight, because it's not easy. You fight. And then you get better at fighting because you've been practicing it.
Yeah, I love what you just said. It's for people like myself who struggle with anxiety, and a lot of the followers that follow the Joy Tribe Co. do suffer from anxiety and lots of stress, depression, you yourself. I think it's important to recognize that, you know, finding positivity or finding joy, it is a struggle. Especially if you're, you know, in a dark place and you can't get out and you feel like there's no other options and you're just kind of like surviving the day. It is a struggle to find things you're feeling positive about and grateful for. So I do agree, and I think that to downplay the fact that it's not a struggle and it's just like, oh, like let's look at the day and find things, and like I've seen a lot of people, and even I've said that on my Instagram, and but it is, if you look at it differently, it is a struggle for people, and maybe even just finding one, but that if you fight for it, like you say, and you know, I've found days where you've had to fight for it and fight for it hard, but I think that it's a learning thing. It's a muscle.
It is a muscle.
Where it's, once you start doing it more, you end up just now automatically thinking, oh, well, that's so great. Like that happened, or you know, this thing happened. So it's definitely a struggle, and
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes it's not. Like, it depends on the day. But we're talking about days that are hard, right? Like, we're not talking about days that are easy. Like, if we were talking about the days that are easy, we'd be like, okay, well then just do what's going on because it's a good day. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about humans, and I don't actually believe. I don't know if I do believe this. I was going to say I don't believe that there are people who struggle with anxiety and there are people who don't. Like, I think people who don't struggle with anxiety are people who are outside the human race. Like, I think they're sociopaths, and I think they're, well, see, I don't know if it's fair. I don't know if it's fair to say that. I don't know if everyone, like, I have some friends who are very phlegmatic, like, you know, people who are like Spock on Star Trek, you know, like, who seem to exist in a very regular box and they never go out of it. Like, are they human? Are they a robot? I'm not sure, because that doesn't seem to me to be normal human behavior. Like, my wife, my spouse, she is so positive. She is so I mean, one of the reasons I think she's one of the best. I think she's one of the best people in the world. Like, I married her. I grabbed onto her because I went, this person is so amazing. She doesn't struggle with anxiety and positivity nearly as much as I do. Like, I go and get on stage and talk about fighting to be positive because that's my life. She'd get on stage and talk about, why don't you just be positive? Right? Why don't you just be positive? But she herself has days, has issues, has things that drag her down into anxiety, drag her down into depression, drag her down, even her. So I don't believe that this is not for, pardon me?
Part of the human existence.
It's just part of our human existence. So, and if you're lucky enough that maybe this year, this 10 years, this decade, it's not part, great. Be grateful and have empathy. But most likely you're experiencing this. And in a pandemic, I think almost everyone is experiencing this.
You're not alone, everyone.
And you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I think we're getting to the end of our chat, which is amazing. We're almost an hour here. So I'm not sure if there's any questions, or is there any sort of last things that you'd like to say, or what is the piece of advice that you love to give the world now?
Well, I think we've already talked about much of that. Fighting for the things that. Okay, this is what I would give. I believe that almost everything that I talk about that comes back to value, comes back to this idea. It comes back to the idea that you have to be actively involved. You have to be engaged. Like engagement, I define as active participation. I can say that I'm engaged with my daughter playing cat, which she loves to play. But the truth is, if I'm on my phone and I'm doing, going meow, and I'm on my phone, meow, I'm not engaged with her. I'm actively participating with my phone. If I want to actively engage with her, I have to actively participate with her. So what I would say that I think the secret to life is that life is a constant, is constantly being challenged to actively engage with the things that matter most with you, and to actively disengage with the things that matter the least. Right? So it's a combination. They're two sides of the same coin. If you are too giving of your time, you will find yourself wrapped up and all actively involved in things that you don't care about. That's not a good thing. That is not a good thing. It is better to be active. That's my thing is like, if you look around your life and you're not actively fighting, if you're not actively working towards things that matter to you, the me that you want to be, then I would say start figuring out how to pull action into your activity. Like, where am I actively putting my energy? That's where you start to think. I think a really good thing for people who are going, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know if I can do that. Literally, I believe in old school technology. Take a piece of paper and write during the day when you're engaged and when you put a column engaged and disengaged, and put a mark, I'm engaged, and then put what you're engaged in, and then put disengaged, I'm engaged. By the end of one day, by the end of one afternoon, you should have be able to look at, go, wow, I'm really disengaged. Or wow, I'm really actively engaged in things I don't want to be engaged in. How many people are, we know the stats. The stats are 3/4 of the people are engaged in work that they don't want to be in, that they're working in places they don't want. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? That's a problem.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I have taken my brain is going to explode because I've taken so much good stuff out of this conversation. So thank you, Roger. And I just want to say thank you. And we're very excited to have you at the Soul Sessions this Sunday. So you will be closing out the big to-do, and you will be talking more about becoming the me you want to be. And it's going to be a great conversation, and he'll be engaging with our attendees. So join that. And we will see you on Sunday.
Yeah, and what we're going to talk about on Sunday in particular is going to be fight to be positive, and strategies that you can use in your life to fight to be. So if you're going, how do I fight to be positive? We're going to come up talk about 6 different ways that you can go. Any one of those, if I work on them, will create more positive in my life.
Yes, which we all need right now. So we will see everyone at the Soul Sessions, I hope. And everyone have a great day. And we'll see everyone soon, and enjoy the weather.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Roger.
Bye-bye.
Bye.